Hey everybody, this episode of the Boomer Consumer is all about the SMSL D400EX preamp and DAC all in one unit. And I want to thank my friends at APOS for providing this loaner unit to me. However, all opinions are my own and no one has reviewed this video prior to posting. And I gotta say, this DAC is more of an audiophile grade DAC. If you are looking for something with fantastic sound, easy to set up, easy to use, and, well, actually, I think it's absolutely stunning to look at, then this may be the DAC for you. Okay, so let's go over the specs of the SMSL D400EX. It is a preamp and DAC. You get a triple chip design. That's two AK4499EX chips with one AK4191 chip, and that separates the analog and digital in the circuit path. And then so you get basically one chip for each channel. PCM support 32-bit up to 768 kilohertz and DSP-512. Full MQA decoding. Don't know if that's going to be a big deal going forward. Color display. You get Bluetooth 5.0, and it covers all the usual suspects, including aptX and aptX HD. Bluetooth 5.0. 7 modes of digital filters. 9 different op amps, inputs, USB, optical coax, AES, and I2S, as well as outputs including single-ended and XLR. So in the box, it really is high-quality packaging. You get the DAC, a remote control, power cord, Bluetooth antenna, USB cable, and then finally a quick start guide. And this is just so beautifully made. You got all aluminum construction on here. You get this kind of a nice edge along the side here of it. Let me kind of get this so you can see that a little bit better. Just a really nice design. It weighs about 4 pounds. And the measurements on here are 9.4 inches across by 7.4 inches in depth and 1.7 inches in height. That works out to 240 by 188 by 46 millimeters in size. Again, weighs about 4 pounds. Okay, let's talk about the front of the SMSL D400EX. You have this really nice color display. This is, I'm actually in the menu settings right now, which you can use the scroll wheel to access all the functions. There's quite a few on here. You can have change your inputs, your outputs, your PCM filter. There's several of those. Go back in here. And you have a sharp roll off. You have your slow roll off, etc. I find that the super slow roll off sounds the best to me. Go back into the menu. You have your DSD filters. Something that I'm not sure exactly what it does is sound color. I understand that it may introduce tiny bits of distortion, maybe to emulate a tube-like sound. SML didn't really explain that in the documentation, but there we go. You have your preamp mode, which I have this set up in. And then coming on down, there we go. You have your settings for your function key, I2S mode, and then there's an I2S mode for DSD, your audio phase, and dimmer. And we'll just go back to the menu. You have your power button. A long press turns it off and on. A short press will change the inputs. So just click, 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 and you can see we're going through the various inputs. Right now I'm using optical input. Then another button is your menu button, and you use this jog dial to go through it. And then finally you have a function button, and the function button controls the output, so we can just change outputs. You can see that we're going to balanced, so forth. And that's what's on the front of the D400EX. So what's on the back of the D400EX? Well, you have your power off and on switch, your IEC power connection. You have your I2S, USB, you have optical, coax, and AES. So just really any kind of connection you might want. You have 2 XLR outputs and then single-ended RCA outputs and then your Bluetooth antenna. And that is what's on the back of the D400EX. Now let's talk a little bit about the remote. Nice little plastic remote, power off and on. Navigating your menus right here. And by the way, I just kind of find the jog dial a little bit on the frustrating side to use. You know, go back up and down through the menu, scroll and so forth. Mute, the function button, change your output sources volume up and down. So just by clicking a button, we can get into the menu and scroll all the way through the different menus. Go back to function and we're back. So this is how I recommend you work with this. I'm not a big fan of the jog dial on here. Let's talk about the sound of the 400EX. First off, for sources, I use streaming music and CDs. And for streaming, I use Apple Music as my source on there. I use the Schiit Magni headphone amplifier and the HIFI Man Edition XS headphones. I got to tell you, this is a very musical sounding DAC. It is very lush, it is well defined, lots of detail. It truly is a step up from the less expensive, $100, $300, $400 DACs out there. This is really an audiophile grade DAC for under $1,000. Did some listening with Ahmed Jamal, his Emerald City Nights CD, and I just heard details in that music I had never heard before. The piano was incredible. Played Charles Lloyd's trios. The instrument sounded so lifelike. This really improved imaging. The sound stage was nice and wide and tall listening to this. As far as the imaging is concerned, it was very easy to place where the instruments were at on that stage. The bass is very solid. It's deep. It's not muddy. Vocals were lifelike. It's just incredible. It's just like that singer was right there in front of you singing. So just very, very lifelike. And the treble is not fatiguing at all. It's very buttery. It's very smooth and engaging. I found this DAC to really increase the pleasure of listening to digital music and just took it to another level. So here's just my final thoughts. This is an absolute beast of a DAC. It's beautiful. It sounds beautiful. This is something that could last you for many years. I do wish there was a built-in headphone amp at that $1,000 price range. I'm not a big fan of the rotary knob on here. Much rather use the remote control. The documentation, I think, should do a little bit better job explaining what some of the functions actually do, especially if somebody is new to DACs and things like filters, sound coloration, etc. But I believe this is well worth the price. This is my new favorite reference DAC. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.